President, can you explain why you did not condemn those hate groups by name over the weekend?
They've been condemned. They have been condemned.
And why are we not having a press conference today? You said on Friday we'd have a press conference.
We had a press conference. We just had a press conference.
Can we ask you some more questions then, sir?
It doesn't bother me at all, but I like real news, not fake news. Give fake news. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. President, haven't you spread a lot of fake news yourself, sir?
That was the president just now responding to our own senior White House correspondent. It was a voice of Jim Acosta there shouting the questions at the president in the White House on the atrocities over the weekend. And as you heard the president say, he's condemned them. He's condemned them, he says. I have Paris Denard with me now, who's a former White House director of Black Outreach under President George W. Bush. Keith Boykin is a CNN political commentator and a Democratic strategist. Joe Pinion is a supporter of the president. And Sarah Seidner, CNN correspondent, is with us, who's really just been reporting on hate and hate groups in this country over the past year. So welcome to all of you. And Keith, what's just your immediate response in hearing not only the president from earlier today and condemning who he referred to as thugs, KKK, white supremacists, etc., but just now saying, I've condemned it, I've condemned it. Your thought?
It sounds like he doesn't take this issue seriously. Even in his speech earlier, he went through this whole litany about the economy before he even got to the discussion about the white supremacist murdering attack in Charlottesville. Just a few moments ago, when he's questioned about this and by Jim Acosta, he doesn't want to talk about it. He dismisses it. Oh, they've been condemned. They've been condemned. Well, this is a time and an opportunity for the president to speak with moral clarity and with rapid moral clarity. He has failed to do that. It took him just 54 minutes to respond to the African-American CEO of Merck today, Ken Frazier, to condemn him. But it took him 2 days to respond to the racist murdering attack in Charlottesville, Virginia. That's unacceptable. That's an abdication of moral leadership, and it's a failure on the part of the entire Republican Party, of those who continue to support him, to allow this to happen.
Paris, how do you see it?
I 100% disagree with everything that Keith just said, but that's no big surprise. I normally disagree with everything that he says. When it comes to the president, I was proud to see him once again disavow his association, talk about why he does not associate himself with these organizations, these hate groups. He did this back in March of 2016 with respect to David Duke. And he said, he said, David Duke is a bad person. I disavow from David Duke. I disavow from the KKK. He did that in March of 2016. He gave a statement this weekend that wasn't strong enough for a lot of people because he did not name specifically these different hate groups.
Was just it strong like President. For you?
Yes. Yeah, it was strong. Yes, it was strong enough for me because he came out and said, hatred, bigotry, and violence have no place in our society in America. And that was true. And he was talking about the hate
sides and not specifying groups.
Listen,
okay.
You know what? When President Obama, after Charleston, came out right after Charleston 9 and gave his remarks, it was a very tempered response, and he did not go into details because he didn't know all the facts. He did not name all of those people by name, all those hate groups by name, and did not call that person who was a domestic terrorist, and we knew that he was, a white supremacist, a neo-Nazi, or a member of the KKK. He didn't do any of that, but he didn't receive the backlash. But President Trump did do that today. He did it, and afterwards, when Jim Acosta came and asked him about it again, he said, they have been disavowed. They have been disavowed. They have been disavowed.
Can I just say something real quickly, Brooke?
And the last point to this, Keith, I didn't interrupt you, is that I'm surprised that all of a sudden, we want the President of the United States to be our bishop, our priest, our pastor. If you go back to past presidents, Bill Clinton, Richard Nixon for many instances, or even if you go back to JFK, there have been huge examples of moral failure. So the President of the United States has never been someone that we look to be our moral leader. If you want a perfect person, if you want somebody who was beyond fault and repute, you can't elect Jesus Christ because he's the only one that was perfect.
This
is a political leader.
I'm sorry to the other guests. I just have to say something about this. We have a president of the United States right now who started his political career by attacking the first African-American president with a racist birtherist attack, which he continued for 5 years. He started his political campaign by attacking Mexicans, and he started his ascendancy in the political campaign by attacking Muslims. He has a history of racism, and he's failed to repudiate this. This is unlike President Obama. I'm offended that you continue to go there, Paris, but the reality is that President Trump has not done enough, and I'm ashamed that you, as an African-American, Paris, will not say that.
Well, Keith, I don't need you to try to pull my black card. I am well aware of my blackness and don't need you to try to classify me as being one. I understand what racism is. Keith, don't go there. Do not go there. I know what it means to be a black man in this country. I know, and I experience racism on a regular basis by being a Trump supporter and by being a proud American who happens to be a Republican. I get racist
comments. So that's the racism you experience by being a Trump supporter?
I get racist comments about my family, about my mother, about my girlfriend, about my character every single day from mostly coming from black people, Keith. If you really want to get down to it, my family's from Georgia. Keith, let me finish.
Guys.
My family's from Georgia. We have members of our family that went missing because of the KKK taking them up. So don't come to me and tell me about what it means to be a black person in this country. I fought every day in the George W. Bush White House. Yes, Keith, let me finish.
Calm down and answer the question.
No. I won't calm down because I will not
question.
be attacked by you about my blackness because I happen to be a Republican and I listen to our president.
Paris,
who went
you've
on
really
multiple
gone off the
instances.
rails here.
Okay.
I am going off the rails
here.
because you have no grounds and no respect to attack
Paris,
somebody like this.
You're obviously very sensitive and defensive about
Keith,
this issue,
you better
Paris,
watch
because you
your
have your
mouth
own
when you
issues
talk to
and
me,
demons
Keith.
to resolve.
Get your guest under
Keith
control.
And Paris, just do me a favor, just please come
Get
on
him
my
under
show
control because I will not come on the show and be disrespected and have my office.
Oh, you can disrespect African Americans every day when you come on the show.
Hang on, please.
And you don't represent them at all. You don't represent the 8% of that voted for
You
this
do, of
president.
course, Paris. You're the spokesperson.
Guys,
I'm not their spokesperson, but I happen to be a black person who agrees with this president, and I'm proud that he stood up there and said what he said, denouncing the Klan, denouncing David Duke like he did in March, and denouncing the hatred, bigotry, and violence.
It took him 2 days
He wasn't forced to do it. He was not forced to do it.
Take that conversation, have it off camera. I really would like to have a substantive conversation about.
Yeah, well, he better watch how he talks about me too.
I understand. And let's
Paris, shut up, please, for God's sake. Why do you keep doing this?
So you're gonna let him call me to tell me to shut up?
No,
when Ken Kitchener did that to Simone Sanders, there was a meltdown. Don't tell me to shut up on the show. This is preposterous, and you know it.
Guys, please respect. Give me a minute, Joe. I know you've been listening to all of this. Your eyebrows have been raising. How do you view as a conservative, as a beloved member of the Republican Party? We've talked at length about that. How you're listening to the president, listening to this conversation on this show. This is where we are now in this country.
I think that the reality is that this is where we've been at as a nation for a very long time.
True.
So I don't think that this is necessarily something that is new. I think that for a lot of Americans, they're just finally realizing the fissures that have existed in this nation for a very long time. I listen to what just occurred right now. It's heartbreaking. Because again, I look at both of you are my brothers. And regardless of what's happening right now in this country, that we have to find a way to fix these issues as brothers and not tearing each other down, not engaging in black-on-black intellectual crime in prime time. So I understand that we get frustrated when people try to castigate us. I get ridiculous things on Twitter the same way as you do, Paris. And I understand the frustration and the anger, but you cannot drive out hate with rage. And so again, that we need to figure out a way that we can, as a nation, as people, as a community of people of color, as a nation of people that is the tapestry of all different ethnicities, figure out how we can, again, come together, hold hands, and do things differently. I think there are realities that we need to confront on the Republican side as well as just as a nation. I think that when you have a president that habitually communicates in the language of hyperbole, when you contrast that with the statement that he made over the weekend, it makes it very difficult for people who have been marginalized, for people who do not necessarily feel like they have felt the warm embrace from this president, to believe that he is being sincere. That is just the outcome of what has transpired, for better and for worse. And so I think, again, ultimately, it's incumbent on us, those of us who have this platform, those of us who have been blessed with the opportunity to have input on issues that impact people's lives, to be able to sit down and say, what is our objective? and then say that there is not one path to get there, but then multiple forces from different standpoints can work together to get us to where we're trying to be as a society.
I want to add this. I
Please,
think it's
Sarah.
important to note, you know, this fight that we're just now having, we haven't even mentioned the victim's name, Heather Hare, who died as a result of hatred. And I think it's really important to remind everyone why we're talking about this now. And if you thought, or people thought, that we were living in a post-racial world because we had a black president, welcome to reality. I think that's one thing that people forget, is they say, oh, well, now look, we have a black president, look how great America is coming together. We are divided, and it's getting worse. I want to give you some idea about how we can very specifically look at what President Trump did not do, the words he did not use in the first 48 hours, and how that affected neo-Nazis, one of the most prolific, most well-known neo-Nazi. I want to read you what he said after the president came out with his initial statement. And if this doesn't tell you something, I don't know what will. Here is what the Daily Stormer, the guy that runs it, said. He said Trump's comments were good. He didn't attack us. He just said the nation should come together. Nothing specific against us. When asked to condemn, he just walked out of the room. Really, really good. God bless him. Those words are coming from a person who uses the most vile, disgusting, hateful, anti-Semitic, anti-black, you name it, misogynistic. He has gone after the victim in this case, and these are the words coming from him. That's how President Trump came off to those who believe in white supremacy. That is a major problem. Words matter. They matter to everyone who is listening to the president, and the fact that he waited a couple of days to actually name these groups and say, look, no to the KKK, no to neo-Nazis. We have to look at this as they look at it. They are taking it as a signal that Trump is giving them a thumbs up. That's a problem.
So the question then to Paris is, Paris, how can the president, shouldn't the president, given that disgusting response, say, if you are my supporters, I do not want your support. Call them out by name. Do not support me.
He's done that. When he says that I've disavowed from you back in March, when he said that
it's not March. We are in August. Someone is dead. I don't understand why he can't just go after the people who were perpetrating some of this. Yes,
okay,
a lot
so
of people
actually,
are
that's
angry,
what he did.
Why
actually,
not mention it immediately?
That's what he did today. And actually, it's more than one person that's dead. It's 3 people that are dead. So this is a It's a very serious issue.
That is true. But
and so
the person
he denounced
who was hit and killed by someone who had these views is dead, and you had 2 sheriff's deputies that are dead trying to help deal with the situation that got out of control.
Right. No matter what the president says, these idiots who you just gave a wonderful platform to are going to continue to use his name
they have a platform.
get. I've never heard of these people. David Duke is the most irrelevant person, but you know what? He keeps coming around. David Duke keeps coming around because he tries to say that he's a Republican and he wants to be in the media. This website, these neo-Nazis, these KKK members, they want the media platform. They want to be known. They want to have the megaphone. They want to have the microphone. Keep mentioning their website. Congratulations. You're going to keep driving up their numbers. I won't go visit their website. I'm not going to go Google who this person is. But that's what they keep doing. And it is about the president. And he disavowed it back in March. He did it on a couple of days ago, and he did it again today. And then in the follow-up, he said, I distance myself from him. He keeps doing it, and it's fine.
Why is it that white Republican senators and members of Congress have been disagreeing with President Trump's statement on Saturday, saying he didn't go far enough?
Yeah. Because if the president had read the statement as written, and not ad-libbed, which he normally does, and not said that those 2 words or 3 words that he ad-libbed on, everyone would have said. Everyone, many sides. Everybody would have said, this was appropriate response. This was a good job. But the media and everybody else fanned the flames and said, oh, this president is racist. Oh, this president didn't do what he should have done. He should have gone further.
But you have to understand, Paris, he wasn't specific on the groups. Why not just be specific on the groups, call them thugs, and be done with it at the get-go? Do you understand? It was like that nebulous nature of his comments led to this criticism. The genesis of the criticism was the president.
I don't think naming the groups then would have done anything different than it did today. but
I just don't
pacified a
think
lot
that's
of people
accurate,
who
though,
came to him to do that. Because listen, I go back to President Obama. You don't like me to do it, but I do, because it gives us context on what people do in this situation when it happens unexpectedly, like Charleston did. That at that time, President Obama did not name him and call him a domestic terrorist. He did not call him a neo-Nazi. He did not call him a white supremacist.
Okay,
He did not do it.
Okay,
And President Trump did not do it. But both statements were strong and were clear. When the president said hatred, bigotry, and violence have no place in America, he wasn't talking about the Christians and church-going people. He wasn't talking about the people who were there peacefully. He was talking about those who hate, those who are bigots, and those who are exercising violence.
Paris,
That
let me
was
just
clear
say,
to
let
me.
me just say this,
Let Keith
Paris,
respond.
because let me just say this because President Trump spent his entire political campaign attacking President Obama.
You've already
for not
made that
call-
talking
for
point,
not,
Keith. Thank you. Move on.
This is a different point, so please
Oh,
let me
different talking
finish.
point. Go ahead.
Good. Don't let me
Go ahead,
finish
Keith.
my point. Thank you. Okay. President Trump made this whole political career talking about President Obama's failure to call out radical Islamic terrorism. You can't attack radical Islamic terrorism unless you call it by name. Now here we have an instance of radical white supremacist terrorism, and President Trump won't call it by name. You
Actually, he
can't
did
have
that
it
today.
both ways.
That's what he did today.
It took him 2 days to say something.
That's
even,
what he.
even
So
today.
be accurate.
Even,
Either
let
he
me
didn't
finish
say it
now,
or he
Paris.
didn't.
Paris,
He said
let
it
me
today.
finish. Okay,
He
Paris,
said it
so
today.
We understand.
But he said it after a lot of
today,
pressure
even today, he
from
said,
other
and
groups,
other hate
right?
groups.
I mean-
Even today, he said, and other hate groups. He wasn't unequivocal. He left that wiggle room so that other people could interpret other hate groups to be Black Lives Matter or people who are supporting Black Lives.
This is what I'm talking about.
That's
You'll never
what
be
that's what I'm
satisfied.
talking about. There's an
Okay.
ambiguity
He can't list
in what
every
President
hate
Trump
group in
communicated.
America
he
and
doesn't
around
have
the
to.
world.
All he has to do is say the specific groups.
And he
Nazis
did.
white supremacists.
And he
But he
did.
didn't have to say other hate groups. He didn't have to say many sides on Saturday. This guy doesn't speak with moral clarity in the way when he talks about Ken Frazier, or he talks about Black Lives Matter, he talks about anybody who he dislikes, he's very clear. When he talks about white supremacists, when he talks about Vladimir Putin, he's not clear.
It was
Joe.
clear to
And
me.
the message is
Joe, Joe,
the message
Joe,
is clear to the KKK,
Joe.
and it's clear to
Where
the
do we-
neo-Nazis as well.
Where do we go
This is
from here?
ridiculous.
I think
Where
the
do we go from
reality
here?
that we have to face right now is that we have a president that does not always speak with nuance, often does not speak with nuance. And so I think it becomes frustrating for people when we act as if somehow this president is going to somehow be held to a different standard when it comes to issues of people of color, when it comes to issues like Russia. But on everything else, he is given carte blanche to go out there and speak off the cuff. I think that that is very frustrating. That is dangerous. I think ultimately, when you talk about where we go from here, we need to sit down as a nation and say, these are the things that we value. Martin Luther King Jr. said it best. All we ask of America is to be true to what we say on paper. All right. And yet, incumbent in that is an understanding that some of the things that were on paper did not always apply to people of color in this country. And so when we talk about these issues of race, we can have honest and open discourse, but that has to be rooted in truth, and that has to be rooted in demonstrated love. And I think that that's what we need to do a better job of, not just as a party, as political figures, but also as a country, as a nation as well.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Appreciate all of you. I'm done. We'll be right back.